All right, good morning, everyone. Happy to see you all here. Just give a moment while participants join. And while everyone's joining, let me just introduce myself for a moment here. I am Rosa Clark, and I'm joining you from the northeastern part of the United States. I'm the Communications and Events Manager here and on the community team. So if you would like to say hello in the chat, let us know where you are in the world that you are joining us from. That would be great. And we'll wait just another moment and then we will get started. Oh, people from all over, Jamaica, Georgia, New Jersey, Oxford. Hello, hello. Wonderful. We're holding steady now with participants, so I will get started. So before we begin, let me just start by reminding us all that we want this meeting to be safe and respectful and productive for everyone, so that we ask that you be mindful of our code of conduct. Please always empathize and be respectful of others, and keep your communication appropriate for a professional audience and people of different backgrounds. Be agreeable, even if you disagree. Participate constructively. And note that Crossref does not allow the use of AI assistants in meetings, so they will be excluded from the meeting if they are detected. So here are the speakers for today. Since we have so many speakers, I won't go through each of the speaker names, but they will introduce themselves at the start of their presentations. Know how to use Zoom. For questions, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. This will help us keep track of all of the questions, and it gives us the ability to share out answers to the questions. If we don't get to them today, we can share them with the recording and the slides at a later date. The session will be recorded. If you're not comfortable being on camera, feel free to turn your video off. And also, there is captioning if you wish to use that at the bottom of your screen. So here is the agenda, what we'll be covering today. So first half of the session, we'll talk about governance, membership, and metadata updates. Then a short break, and then we're going to move into demos, and we'll be looking at the funder matching, the new data citations endpoint, Metadata Manager updates, and then we'll talk about the service providers program announcement. There will be opportunities throughout to ask questions. Again, please use the Q&A box so we can keep track of those. So with that, we've got lots to get through. So I am going to hand over to Lucy Okish, Chief Operating Officer, to talk about operations and governance.
Thanks, Rosa. I'm going to give us a quick overview of our operations and governance and a couple reminders towards the end. So there we go. As you may know, Crossref is an adopter of the principles of open scholarly infrastructure, which describes the way that we operate as an organization and as an infrastructure to ensure that we are meeting best practices for open infrastructure. As part of that process, I think there are 20 adopters at this point. Each adopter goes through a self-audit and publishes it, so you can have a look at all of the organizations that have signed on to it on this link here, and links to their self-audits that they've conducted as they review the principles. The principles are here. This is the latest change. So POSI earlier this year released 2.0, or actually it might have been last year. It was a kind of year-long process to address some of the updates in the principles. We started with 16 principles, Together, the community of adopters with community comment as well have added 4 additional principles you'll see here in bold. Under governance, there's an additional principle where we will regularly review purpose and community value. Under sustainability, having done these audits for a couple of years, organizations were finding a need to separate transparent operations from other elements to transparency. So there's a specific principle around how the adopters make our operations transparent to the community. The establish and maintain financial reserves. There was a lot of feedback from the community on this principle and setting a particular set number that organizations should meet. And so with community feedback, we've adjusted that principle. And then volunteer labor and transition planning are 2 additional elements that are best practices under the sustainability section of POSI. So this is done in tandem with the other adopting organizations, and is now available on the POSI website. Crossref last did an update in 2024. It's available on our blog if you want to see how we have assessed ourselves against those then 16 principles. They also includes a lot of links, so you can dig in further if you're interested about a particular principle. We have committed to do these assessments every other year, so we are going to do another one at the end of 2026, and that one will capture the new additions to the principles as well. So that will be out later this year. A quick tour on our financial position. So as you know, Crossref is a membership association. We provide our financials to our members definitely every year at the annual meeting, but we're also, now that we've added in these mid-year meetings, are providing an update there as well. We are in the midst of closing out our financial audit for 2025. Once it's complete, that will be available on our website, in addition to our 990s, which are available on the financial pages of our website as well. But in general, Crossref is in a healthy financial position. Last year, revenue grew 8% compared to the prior year. Expenses grew a lot, but we were still under budget by 3%. Looking at early figures for this year, we're seeing what I think a lot of folks are seeing, which is that the rates of publishing keep growing. So our content registration rate is up 13% at the end of March compared to the end of March last year, which is above average for us. Our average rate of growth of content registration is about 7%. So 13% is pretty significant. But so far this year, we're seeing very similar trends to what we saw last year in terms of growth rates. Similarity check, which is our plagiarism checking tool, is also up a lot, which is reflective of the rise of submissions that many organizations are seeing as well. On the cost side, about 2/3 of our costs come from people. The other third comes from non-people costs. And the biggest portion of that by far is our AWS bill. But overall, Crossref is in a very healthy financial position. And if I can get my slide to go forward, I will give one last mention on governance. So we are just about to post our call for board nominations. We have an open call. Any member can stand for the board. A blog post will be up later this month. With the open call stays open for about a month. The nominating committee is convening to review applications. We will have 1 large seat up this year and 6 small seats. So it's a big class this year. Our whole board is only 16 people. So this election cycle is the biggest one with 7 seats that are timed to be up this year. And then in September, the election opens, and every member has a vote. We have 25,000 members. Each organization has 1 vote, regardless of size. Last year, we had about 6% participation from our membership in the election. So we'd love to see that go up. So stay tuned in September. The election is open for about 5 weeks. And cast your vote in who stands on our board. Okay, I think that's it for me. Rosa, I think if you're talking, you are muted. Yeah, there you go.
Here we go. Thank you very much. So now our next presenter will be Marina. We'll be talking about membership updates.
Thank you. My name is Marina. I'm the member experience manager here at Crossref, and I thought I'd give you a quick update on the membership. So we'll start with the reminder of Crossref scale, how we've grown over the last few years, but also talk about our new members who've joined us since our last community call. I'm afraid I'm trying to go back one slide.
All right, just a moment. Let's see if I can get you over here. My mouse seems to be a little locked up. Okay. How about that?
Here we are.
Great.
Thank you. So, firstly, many of you have seen the slide that looks like this or similar to this in the past. So currently at Crossref, we have 25,000 organizational members from 167 different countries. So you can see a lot of growth in the recent years and members from all over the world joining Crossref. 51% of these members are actually based in Asia, and we keep seeing a steady increase throughout the last year amongst our Asian community. 40% of all of these members don't actually consider themselves to be publishers. First and foremost, they consider themselves to be universities or scholar-led publishers. Currently, we're supported by 140 sponsoring organizations, or sponsors, as we call them for short, and 42 ambassadors. And I just like to take a moment and say thank you to all of our ambassadors and all of our sponsors for the support they offer to our members. We currently got 183 million open metadata records with DOIs that are resolved 1.4 billion times per month, which is actually 93% of all DOI resolutions. And there are 2.1 billion queries of our metadata each month too, by hundreds of thousands of systems ingesting and reusing the metadata. And, probably thousands, maybe millions of individual researchers also querying the metadata. But let's turn for a moment to our newer member organizations who have joined since our last community call last May. So since last mid-year community call in May 2025, over 3,000 members joined Crossref from 142 different countries. 54% of these new members are from Asia, with Indonesia providing the largest group with 70.5% in total, and India providing the next largest group with 9.5% in total. We continue to have members joining from the US and the UK, but we've also had over 100 new members join from Turkey, Brazil, and Pakistan. Of the new members who joined since the last community call, almost all of them fall into our two lowest fee tiers, with only 30 new members into one of the higher fee tiers. Speaking of the membership fee tiers, we saw a major change this year in January 2026 with the introduction of the new membership fee tier for members with annual publishing revenue or annual publishing expenses, whichever is higher, of under $1,000. Since the last community call in May last year, 40% of new members joining fall into the new tier, and 40% fall into the next tier for those with annual publishing revenue or expenses between 1,000 and 1 million US dollars. Most of our members fall into one of two organization types. Let's talk about this for a little bit. We have a similar split here. So 40% identify themselves as publishers, and another 40% identify themselves as universities or scholar-led. We also see plenty of societies, around 13%, and governmental agencies and NGOs, around 4%, joining Crossref, as well as other organization types like hospitals, for example. If we're talking about which kind of platforms our members use, so half of our new members told us whether or not they're using a platform when they applied for the membership. The most popular choice remains the OGS platform by PKP, which is 55% of new members that selected that. Next selection is no platform, around 30%, and the other popular ones are WordPress with 4% and Scholastica with 2%. And now, I mentioned earlier that one of our growing countries was Pakistan. So that's why I want to highlight our GEM program a little bit and share the news that we have extended our GEM program in January 2026 to include more countries, and Pakistan was one of the new countries joining the list. So, as a reminder for those of you who don't know or maybe have forgotten, our GEM program offers relief from membership and content registration fees for members in the least economically advantaged countries in the world. Members in GEM eligible countries don't pay Crossref membership or content registration fee, and we had previously referred to the World Bank IDA list for GEM eligible countries, but this year in January we extended to also include the IDA blend countries and UN least developed countries. That means our list of GEM eligible countries has grown by a further 18 countries. And since the last call, we've gained our very new first members in Haiti, South Sudan, and Niger, thanks to the GEM program. And just a last number from my side, of all of the independent members joining Crossref since the last call, 20% of them are GEM eligible. With this, I'm gonna pass over to Amanda.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thanks, Marina. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Bartel. I'm the Director of Membership here at Crossref, and I'm going to talk a bit about our Member Practices Working Group today. So before I get into the Member Practices Group, I want to give some context around Crossref's role in preserving the integrity of the scholarly record. So as I'm sure you all know, Crossref's mission is to make research objects easy to find, cite, link, assess, and reuse. And we do that by enabling our members to register DOIs and rich metadata records about the content that they publish. And these records are then openly shared with the whole global scholarly community. And this helps to build the research nexus. And we've always aimed to keep membership barriers low. We believe the best way to support a healthy scholarly ecosystem and to preserve the integrity of the scholarly record is to make metadata about published materials as open and transparent as possible, which enables our members to demonstrate their practices through metadata trust signals. And if member practices fall short, the metadata itself provides a way for the community to identify these issues. And our membership terms that all members sign up to makes the importance of quality metadata really clear. And so if the community identifies inaccurate metadata from our members, we have the option to suspend or even, in a worst case scenario, revoke members. Now, obviously, this is always an absolute last resort. Our first response is always just to get in contact with the member, explain there's a problem with their metadata, and support them to fix it. But increasingly, we're getting reports from the community, not about metadata, but about our members' wider practices. And it's been slightly unclear how and when to respond to this. So here's a flavour of some of the types of member practices that we've had reported to us. There's 3 screens of this, but I'll just give you a few highlights. So we've got articles created by AI, fake authors, fake editorial boards, lack of clarity around APCs, paper mills, requesting payment for peer review, displaying false accreditation, authorship for sale, or setting up multiple legal entities to kind of try and hide the connection between publishers. So in consultation with our board, we've updated our member terms to actively now include member practices. So all of our members now are obligated to comply with our standard member practices, which covers activities and conduct. So it's extra from the metadata. So the idea of these practices is they'll provide clear guidance for our members on what's expected practices, but also on rare situations, we can act decisively if this becomes necessary. So we've created a a member practices working group, jam-packed with research integrity experts. We've got a real mix of different sizes of publishers in different locations, and also those metadata users who are making use of the metadata, and particularly the bibliometricians and sleuths, and also representatives from other organisations working in this area, so COPE or DOAJ, or the Transfer Standing Committee from NISO. So this group is aiming to create a draft of our new member practices for community consultation and ultimately board approval. And we want to make sure that the practices provide really clear guidelines for our members. And one of the most important things for us is making sure these practices are achievable for all types of Crossref members. So what we don't want to do is create barriers to entry or barriers to continued membership for less experienced or less well-resourced publishers. In terms of timescales, well, the group's been meeting since January, and we're going to take a few more months to create a draft of those member practices. That'll then go out for community consultation later in the year, hopefully approval by the Crossref board in November, and we'll be rolling them out at the end of the year. So as you saw from the timelines, we're only halfway through really developing these practices, but there's already a few key themes emerging, and a lot that have emerged around our conversations around title ownership disputes, which is fairly common. So one theme that's developed is making clearer the distinction between a journal owner and a journal publisher, who are often 2 separate entities. We've had recommendations about more upfront checking by Crossref to ensure new members are definitely the publishers of the work they intend to register. We've talked a lot about the importance of capturing ISSNs and also the option of where there is a title ownership dispute, perhaps making that obvious and transparent in the metadata. So some interesting themes already developing. And a couple of these, I wanted to get some input from you all today, if I could. So I've got a couple of polls to get some opinions on some of these themes that are developing. So let's see if I can. Oops. Rosa, it looks like I can't actually access the polls from here. I wonder if you could launch the first one, which is entitled For the Records.
All right. Let's see. Are you able to see it?
Lovely. Thank you.
Welcome.
So this distinction between who is the journal owner, who is the nominated publisher, is quite key. And I'm really interested for the records you register with Crossref. Do you tend to be the journal owner, the nominated publisher, or are you a bit of both? So I can see folks are already voting. Do keep casting your votes. Still votes coming in. I'll leave it a couple more seconds. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to just end the poll, which hopefully I can do and share the results. So hopefully you can all see there. Interestingly, our largest group there is a bit of both. So most of the members here, you're registering records for content where you are you are both a mixture of records where you're the owner of the journal, but also where you're the nominated publisher. But we're seeing a bit of a mix there as well. Rosa, would you be able to launch the next poll, which starts if you are?
Sure. Okay, so let me see if I can go back here. There we go.
Lovely, thank you. So where you said you're the nominated publisher, which is quite a large percentage of you, does that term nominated publisher, does that make sense? Does that accurately describe what you do? So please cast your votes. Let's see the answers coming in. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Any last requests? One more sneaking in. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So it's quite an interesting mix there. Quite a 45% of folks that think that makes sense as a term, but 55% of you don't think so. And I think we've got some suggestions from you all. I won't share those now, but thank you for suggesting that. And we have one very final poll, if we could quickly do that one, Rosa. It's title ownership, I think it's called. Thank you. So we talked a bit about ownership disputes between two different member publishers, and there's been a recommendation that we make the fact that there's a title dispute in action visible in the metadata. So if your organisation was involved in a title ownership dispute, would you be comfortable for this information to be made transparently available in the metadata, or would it be something that you'd be uncomfortable sharing? Now I can see the votes coming in. Very good. Generally speaking, to start with, it looked like most people were generally fine with this, but the no thank you seems to be growing here. Give it another few seconds. Any last votes want to sneak in? Okay, I'm going to end the poll and share those results with you all. So there we go. So generally speaking, it sounds like folks are pretty happy for that to be shared, but there's quite a significant group there who don't want this information to be shared. So that's definitely something we'll talk a lot more about in the member consultation. So thank you for that. So thank you for your input, everyone. That was obviously just a very quick poll, but there'll be much more in-depth member consultation coming in the next few months. And I think we're now handing over to Patricia.
Absolutely.
All right, I think I have control now. Yeah, I am Patricia Feeney. I'm the head of metadata. I'm going to give you an update on what is going on with metadata development at Crossref, what we've been doing and what we are planning to do in the future. Last March, we released our first big schema release in a while. That was version 5.4. And the key features of that were typed citations, where you can indicate in the references you send to us what is in that reference. Is this reference a data set? Is this software? If there aren't identifiers or an obvious pattern in a reference, sometimes it's hard to tell what kind of object is being cited, and that can be very useful for various reasons. So that was added, support for that was added. We added support for version numbers, and we added something to do with preprint status that's very specific to preprints. So as far as adoption, it's always very slow whenever we release new things because everyone has to get their workflows in order, and it takes us a while sometimes to adopt new things, and I know that's true for everyone, so we don't expect to see metadata right away, but we have been seeing some type citations filtering in. We've got a range of 23 prefixes that are sending in these, and we expect that to increase as people are able to update their workflows. We have 25 prefixes using version numbers. Those are mostly preprints. We do know that a lot of articles issue versions, and we'd really like those to be captured in our metadata. And just as a reminder, or maybe new information if you don't know, if you are registering versions of something, if you include a specific version relationship in the metadata, we only charge you for the first item. We don't charge you for the version DOI records that you register beyond that, which is kind of handy. We also added support for grant DOIs and funding metadata. So that means when you send us metadata for a journal article or a book or a preprint or any of the record types we accept, you can now include a specific grant DOI. We also support registration of grant DOIs. So when you include that grant DOI record in your metadata record, you're linking to a fuller DOI record containing a lot of really useful information, like what type of funding was used, information about the project being funded, and some other information as well. And just a note that prior to this support, we were allowing DOIs in the award number field. So if you're very familiar with how your metadata is marked up, we will be disallowing that in the future, but we'll be sure to communicate that to the impacted members, so you are not caught by surprise when you try to send something to us. Excuse me. I am located in the US in the Northeast region, like just outside of Boston, and it's peak allergy season, so I apologize. Coming soon. I know we've been saying we want to support this for a while, but it's going to happen in the next month or two. Most of the work's done. We have a schema 5.5 out. It's going to recognize contributions to research through contributor roles. And we are supporting multiple contributor roles. Currently, you can only send in that this person was an author, this person was an editor, this person was a translator. You can only send in one role per contributor. So we're going to expand that to, you can send in roles, as many roles as you'd like per contributor. Or as many roles as are applicable, I should say. And we are also adding support for the credit taxonomy, which really acknowledges the reality of the broader range of work a contributor does. It has roles for methodology, conceptualization, as well as the ones we already capture, like authoring and translation. We are also expanding our Crossref vocabulary to include corresponding author, which I know we've been asked about that a lot. Also coming soon, we've got a new grants schema coming out. Hopefully not too long, maybe in maybe this quarter, maybe we'll bleed into the summer a bit. This grant schema will allow grants to be assigned to institutions. Currently, we only support grants assigned to individuals. So we're expanding that to include institutions, and you can also include the ROR identifier for that institution. We're going to support roles changing over time, as with our current publication and content schema. We only support one role for an investigator, for example. We're going to support multiple roles and start and end dates per role, so you can capture a person's participation in the grant across the grant's lifetime. We are also going to be adding support for RAIDs, which is a research activity identifier, which is commonly used to identify projects. So I think that's all exciting news. This next bit might not be super exciting or fun, but we are going to start deprecating metadata schema. This was announced last year, and we're actually making progress and working with members impacted by the schema that we've identified as the most infrequently used. That's why we're not deprecating things in a chronological order. A lot of the schema we release have been adopted when there's a big push for something like funding metadata, and some members skipped the interim steps. We have had some schema that have seen very little use. So we're going to deprecate those by the end of 2026. And I've attempted to contact everyone impacted, and I'll be doing another round of reaching out to see if there are any problems with moving to a new schema. And then we will be deprecating the remainder of the schema up through Crossref 5.3.1, hopefully by the end of 2027. I know this could be just really disruptive. We don't want to throw up roadblocks to anyone registering metadata with us. So we're going to do our best to work with you and make sure this schedule works for everyone and help you migrate. So in the end, what will be left will be 5.3.1, 5.4, which are both out now, 5.5.0, and anything that's developed beyond that. So why are we doing this? Just to emphasize, we support a lot of schema. There's 27 total, and we're adding another one soon, and then another grant schema. It takes a lot on our end to support that. Some of the structures in our metadata model really need attention, and we need to make breaking changes, and we want to move people to the newer model. One of the big reasons is that we need to tighten requirements. We require very little, and we would like to require more just to improve metadata quality. There's a lot of metadata out there that exists for everything. You'll be able to record that there's a contributor you'll be required to provide some information about contributors, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to require things like language. So that I mentioned, we want to tighten up requirements and remodel things. We are in the planning stages of remodeling how names are structured. We really want to offer better support for non-Western naming conventions, alternate character sets, and we want to add better support for organizations and group contributors. And we currently support an anonymous contributor, but we want to expand that so you can flag why the item you're registering is anonymous. Excuse me. And lastly, the other addition that we're planning. Oh, I should mention with the previous update, this is very important and the main reason I mentioned it, but I completely forgot to say anything. But we are going to be circulating a proposal for our plans for remodeling names. And I believe someone's going to drop that link in the chat, and we'd love to know what you think. In the morning session, this was mentioned, and I've gotten a lot of comments since then. So if anyone's competitive, you should see if the afternoon session can get more comments on that. That would be kind of fun. But the other thing we're asking for feedback on are for adding statements to the metadata. Our emphasis is really on structured metadata, but there is a lot of information buried about how research is supported and performed in unstructured statements. So some metadata like funder names and award numbers can be pulled out, but the context is missing. So we're adding support for free text statements. There in the proposal, there's a list of the specific statements we want to support. But if there's anything else, please let me know via comment or via email. We're going to support funding and acknowledgement statements, ethics, accessibility, AI usage, data availability that's been asked for a while. So this is a way to capture unstructured hidden metadata and also to kind of collect information about these emerging things like AI usage and see how we can better incorporate that in our metadata, maybe in a structured way in the future. And that's it for me.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Patricia. So here we are now at Q&A. Let's take a look at the Q&A box. And Susan?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Collins, Community Engagement Manager with Crossref. And there are a few questions in our Q&A tool that I'm going to read out now. The first one, will the slides in the recording be made available? Yes, that will be available after the call, both the slides and the recording. So that will be a resource for you. There's a couple that relate to Patricia's presentation on the new schema. The first one, will schema 5.5 support more than one contributor being designated as a corresponding author?
It will. Yeah, we don't really restrict roles between contributors, so that will be allowed.
And the other, if a member deposited metadata under 4.3.1, will they need to redeposit it under the current schema? Oh, you're muted, Patricia.
You won't need to redeposit anything, but if you want to update your metadata, you will have to move to a new schema, which depending on what you're sending us, can be very easy. You can move to 5.3.1, and the only breaking change in that is with affiliation metadata. So if you're not supplying that, you just need to change the version number.
Great. Thanks, Patricia. We have a question now about grant DOIs. And someone asked, is there a list of journals or publishers that currently support grant DOIs in their metadata?
There isn't a specific list. I think that's something that could be extracted from our API. I don't know if we're tracking that specifically. I don't know if anyone else knows.
Yeah, okay.
I'll drop a link in the chat from a recent blog post that mentions a few different publications that specifically from the NWO analysis have been mentioned as good and aspiring examples.
Okay, the next one might be best answered with some API support, but someone is asking, how can we download the metadata of our articles as XML, for example, in a few clicks? I don't know if there are some maybe some documentation to share, or whether that would be better addressed to our support team.
I'll admit I'm not completely up to date on what support we have on that. I know you used to be able to, you can go through our admin interface and get the metadata that way. But someone else might have a better route for that.
From the REST API point of view, you can request any piece of work as an XML, and it will download the original XML. Actually, it's one of the transformations we offer in the REST API.
Okay, and then there's a last one. It's a bit long, so let me bear with me. Currently, the new web deposit interface appears to provide a single contributor affiliation field. In situations where an individual contributor has multiple institutional affiliations, each with a separate ROR identifier, what would be considered best practice for representation within the web deposit form? Should multiple affiliations be entered as comma-separated values within the same field, or is there a recommended structured approach plan to align with the proposed organization identifier and affiliation model?
Yeah, I'd say for that, yeah, the web deposit form will only supports one affiliation per contributor. And if you put multiple affiliations in a single field, that's just going to dump it in a big mass into the affiliation in the XML that's registered. So it's better to just supply one affiliation. I will say our team are working very hard on the metadata registration methods. So I don't know if anyone else has any news on any updates to that in particular, but that is something, if it's not supported, we can take a closer look at, I think.
Great. We have another question. Do we have an estimated time on the new Metadata Manager form being able to support other types of documents? And this question was specifically accepting reports.
Well, I think we've got a presentation later on the new Metadata Manager. So maybe if we cover that in that section.
Okay. Any other questions anyone has, feel free to raise your hand or put them into the Q&A. If not, we will move on to a short break before we resume the second part of our call.
Anything more?
Think anything? Nothing's coming up in Q&A.
All right. Okay. Well, Adam, if something comes to you in a moment or two, please add it to the Q&A. We will get to it, do our best to get to it. I think this is a good time for us to break, stretch our legs, rest our eyes a little bit, grab something to drink. So let's take 5 minutes and then come back. So I have 12:50 my time, Eastern time, so 12:55, and we will see you all back here. Thank you all. See you soon. Hello all. All right, it is 12:55. Hope you're all hydrated and stretched and ready to catch the rest of the session today. So who we have next, we're going to go into demonstrations. And next up will be our colleague Jason, who is going to be sharing a funder matching demo. So I'm going to leave it to you, Jason. You can go ahead and share your screen.
Thank you, Rilla.
Sure.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hope you enjoyed your break. My name is Jason Portenoy. I'm joining you from New York City. And I'm a data scientist here at Crossref, and I'm going to be giving an update about our work on funder matching or funder information enrichment, and specifically the matching project to enrich funding metadata in Crossref. So central to all of this is our vision of the research nexus. You've probably seen this slide before. It's an outline of our vision of going beyond persistent identifiers and really capturing the relationships between entities within the scholarly record, to have a rich understanding of scholarly outputs, organizations, funding organizations, affiliated organizations, authors. Importantly, also persistent identifiers for all of those and relationships between them. So we are focusing now on funding metadata, which really is around three entities in the research nexus, the funder, the grant, and the research output. And this is how they relate to each other. Funder can award grants, and the funder and grant can both be said to have a relationship that supports the research outputs. So we're focusing what we're going to be looking at right now and what we are currently in the middle of making progress on is strengthening this link, this bolded link now between funder and research output. So, for example, a journal article is a research output, and as part of the metadata record, ideally, we would have a link to the funder that has a relationship that supported creating that research output, that journal article. And funder matching is a way that we can strengthen this relationship in the scholarly record. You may know we are already doing funder matching in Crossref, and this is the way it looks right now. This is in a case of when we have a name that is submitted along with we have a funder name that's submitted along with a research output, but not a persistent identifier for that funder name. In this case, we try to match to an existing funder. So the way it looks now, you can see the name comes in with the deposit as Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada. And our matching strategy assigns it the DOI from the funder registry. And we mark in the metadata that this is DOI asserted by Crossref. If the publisher had supplied that as part of the original metadata deposit, it would say DOI asserted by publisher instead. But this was a case of automatic matching that Crossref did to the funder registry ID. And you can also see it appears in two places in the metadata from the REST API. In both cases, it says asserted by Crossref. So this is the landscape we have currently of funder assertions in the Crossref metadata for research outputs. For any time a funder is submitted as part of the metadata, the big blue chunk there, that represents a persistent identifier, funder ID, that was deposited by the Crossref member. The remaining part of the pie is when no funder ID was supplied as part of the deposit. The current system is matching close to 3 million funder IDs already. The rest, the gray area of 9.7 million is we don't have a match for those. And there can be a variety of reasons for that. But the point is that the matching that we currently do does not assign them a funder ID. So this is what we are moving toward instead of what I showed in the previous slide where we assign a funder ID. Instead, we are moving towards matching against the ROR registry instead, so assigning a ROR ID. Shown here, this is the same funder assertion before that came in with the name National Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, but without a persistent identifier along with it. And so the goal of our new matching strategy, we will take that name and match it to the ROR ID for the official organization for that. Again, it will say asserted by Crossref to mark clearly that it was a match that we did automatically on our end, and it was not asserted by the publisher in this case. It'll also say ID type is ROR. So just to take a step back, why are we rebuilding it if we already do it? There are a few reasons. One is that we are committed to ROR. We link to a blog post here that talks about this extensively. We're moving away from the funder registry, where DOIs are the persistent identifier to identify funding organizations. And we are moving to ROR instead, which is a really nice community-driven registry of research-oriented organizations. We are also doing this overhaul and this matching overhaul because the current system was developed over time in sort of an ad hoc fashion that has resulted in something that doesn't fully satisfy our commitment of doing things openly and transparently. So this new system is completely open code, open data. You can see exactly what we're doing, and we are documenting it. We'll be releasing blog posts and other things describing what we're doing. We're also including thorough evaluation of matching methods. I was one of the data scientists recently hired here at Crossref to make this vision happen of doing things in a more systematic and scientific way. And part of this is that we are evaluating what we're doing against gold standard data sets and reporting the results. We just released a blog post recently that goes into these details for funder matching specifically. Finally, this work will allow us to have better control over the matching strategy. It's currently folded into the overall pipeline of what we're doing, and having better control over it allows us to make changes if we need to and really understand what's going on better. Here's a timeline and where we're at now. The basic architecture for this new matching system has been built. We're working on adding features to it, different scenarios dealing with redeposits and some certain edge cases. We are going to start testing this quarter, and we plan to release in the middle of this year. So once that's up and running, we'll be moving on to our next matching tasks, which will be matching grant information to grant DOIs. That's the other side of that triangle that I showed before, and filling in those gaps, matching the metadata and research outputs to the grants with specific persistent identifiers. And here, I'm going to switch to the demo. So this is just a little application that's just meant to demonstrate what the matching service is actually doing. What you're seeing is a peek into the matching service. It's a demo that can send off a funder name to the matcher that we built and see what comes back. So it's recommending the funder name that comes in, Welcome Trust, and we click match. We get the ROR ID back. Now the image and the name, those are just part of the demo, but it's meant as a way of showing off how these persistent identifiers can be useful. Once we have the ROR ID, it's very easy to link it to the Wikipedia page. We can get the official name from ROR. We can get the image from Wikipedia. The main thing, though, is that Crossref is interested in getting the ROR ID from the funder name, and that's the API response down here that's coming back from the funder name. We get the ROR ID. So the matching service is a little more sophisticated than that, and I'm going to show again the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada from before. It has some white space here, but just to show that if the data comes in like this, it is able to get the correct ROR ID for that. Another example, and I'm copying and pasting here, so just bear with me. This medical university in Poland, we send off the name, we get the proper ROR ID back. Now, if that funder name happened to come in the original Polish, which I'm not going to attempt to pronounce, but if this was the metadata that came in, no problem. It still matches against the ROR ID. And this is a happy consequence of ROR's data being so thorough. It has the name in Polish already as an alternate name, and it's able to match against it quite easily. Here's an example with just a little more spice to it. School of Health Sciences, Macau Polytechnic Institute, INST, abbreviated the word institute. In this case, School of Health Sciences is not actually part of the official name. It's a sub-designation of the institute. So the goal is to match just the institute name and not get confused by that prefix. And the matching strategy is able to do that and get the right ROR ID. And one final example, just a negative example here. An important part of the matching strategy is we don't want it to give false positives. We don't want to find a match where there was none. So a very generic term like this, and I'll click match, you can see it just no matches returned. So that's an important part of it, to avoid injecting false information into the scholarly record. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I'm done. Thank you all for listening, and look forward to any questions.
Thanks very much, Jason. Let's see. We do have some questions here.
Do we want to take them now or at the end of the second session, of the second demo?
Let's do that. Yes.
Okay.
Great. So now it's going to be Panos. Able to share your screen?
Of course. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon or morning or evening. So, my name is Panos Pandis, senior software developer here in Crossref, and I will be talking about the data citation API endpoint, which we developed relatively recently. This is an API endpoint that collects and exposes data citations based on data collected from our metadata from our REST API specifically. Just recently, we've reached over 700,000 entries, relationships captured in this API, which effectively collects subset of specific relationships that we encounter in our REST API. The relationships we care about are relationships, are references or relationships from Crossref DOIs to DOIs that are either Crossref dataset DOIs or are dataset DOIs. Tiny technical detail, in this API, we record the first instance of its relationship. Consecutive instances are not captured. So if you check the date of a relationship, you're going to see the first time this relationship was encountered. These three links will link you to the service itself, to the Swagger documentation, or the written documentation posted on our website. And as you can guess from the URL, this is published as a beta service for the time being, and we welcome feedback and comments on the service. Just a few stats. We have noticed around 400 new relationships captured on average per day. And this showcases some member IDs of members that have the most entries in the API. I will quickly explain a tiny bit about the design of this service. Effectively, in the backend, the heart of the service is the agent that collects data from the Crossref REST API on a schedule, and it will use another service, a utility service, that will answer questions such as who does this DOI belong to identify the DOI array for its DOI and decide where we're going to try and gather the information about its type. So is it going to be, are we going to look into our cast list of Crossref dataset DOIs, or are we going to query the DataCite API? Currently, the API supports DOIs from Crossref and DataCite. And if this all looks familiar, it is sort of replacement, or let's say reimplementation of one specific part of event data, which was recently deprecated. And this is capturing what the event data metadata agent would try to capture previously. So we're only now collecting this subset of the event data. Whenever we discover a new relationship, we store it in a database, Postgres, just implementation detail. And this is what feeds the API, the data citations API. We can move on to a quick example of how the API looks. So I'm going to visit, so first of all, here we can see the Swagger documentation for the API. And if we expand on the beta data citations endpoint, we can see all the available query options for the API. And if, for example, we visit our Crossref REST API, and let's say we query for a member that we know that deposits a lot of dataset info. So if, for example, we search for F1000 and we borrow their member ID from our REST API members endpoint, 2560, we can try out from the Swagger docs. I'm gonna quickly remove these default dates because they're not useful for the purpose of this example. We can execute a query, and we can see the response, which is down here. And we can see that, for example, this member has 8,379 known relationships. And the structure of its relationship is this one, which is a triplet. It's a relationship between a subject, which is this DOI, journal article, registered with Crossref. Relation type is references. The object of the relationship, which is this fixer DOI of a type dataset registered with DataCite. Here the response is limited to 20 rows, and there are further options such as searching for specific type of relations, paginating through the results, and looking for specific member IDs, object IDs, and subject IDs. And obviously, as you can notice, browsing specific time windows using the from and until created date. Now, quickly going back to the presentation. If you download the slides, you can find a few examples in this slide that demonstrate all of the things I mentioned, such as pagination, the various filters, and date queries. And of course, all of this can be combined between them. All these query parameters can be combined in an additive fashion. So all of them need to apply. Every query parameter you use is an AND relationship with all the other query parameters. So all of them need to be truthful for you to get back results. And I think that this is our little beta API. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you both for the helpful demos. We do have a couple of questions that were put into the Q&A, and I will read these out now. The first one: will the ROAR matching tool used by Crossref be available to members, and if so, will it be available by the API?
Yeah, so the actual strategy itself is open code, as I mentioned. So that will all be transparent. The API for that we'll use internally for actually doing the matching, that's an open question. We are discussing it. If it's going to be very useful, you should get in contact with us and I think we need to understand better why members might want to actually use the matching API themselves. So we haven't totally made a decision on that. But the ROAR API itself does include matching. We have developed matching strategies with collaboratively with them. So the affiliation matching strategy that is implemented by the ROAR API should be pretty much identical to what we use. Funder matching has been tweaked a little for funders specifically, so it might be a little different. But again, the strategy is open, and if you need to make use of an actual API, get in contact with us. I'd like to know more about that.
And I think I can speak now. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
So Amanda French here, ROAR Technical Community Manager at Crossref. And yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Jason said. We have actually a few blog posts about the close collaboration between ROAR and Crossref on developing a rigorously tested matching strategy. And that is actually available in the ROAR affiliation endpoint of the ROAR API. And now, so there was, in fact, Crossref and ROAR originally developed that matching API. And this update to it has been available for several months. And so we're currently actually working to make that the default, because it is an improvement over the previous already good matching endpoint. So as I say, I think, as you mentioned, Jason, I know that it's been refined specifically for funder matching in specific Crossref metadata, but the ROAR API matching endpoint is really similar. And that's already available, free and open. I put a link to the documentation about that in the Q&A. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Amanda. We actually had another ROAR question. Will the funder matcher be used for the back file to match to ROARs as well?
So I had actually asked Jason about that earlier because I was also curious. So Jason told me that may be in the plans, but is not currently sort of.
I can answer that, so it's not.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We're not doing it secondhand.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. We are planning on backfilling in the funder entries that have been submitted that don't already have persistent identifier submitted by the publisher, of backfilling in those with ROAR. It's not going to happen immediately on the release of the funders. or of the funder matching that will happen as the next milestone in the matching project. But we will get to it at some point.
Great, thank you both. Couple more questions about the presentations. This one, when you say that you record the first instance of a relationship, can you elaborate more on what that means? The writer was thinking about the idea that one might cite a data site collection DOI, which might bundle numerous data sets.
Yes, I probably have to ask for some clarification on this because I'm not sure if this is a use case I'm aware of or not, or if I may be missing something. What this means on our side is literally that as we look into an entry in our API and we scan the references and the relationships, if we identify a triplet, like this DOI has a certain relationship to that DOI, which is a data set, we capture that once, this triplet, and then if we encounter it again and again, we won't capture it once more and have it available as a duplicate or update the date that we last captured this specific relationship. So this is a triplet of unique information. It's a DOI relationship to another DOI. This is going to be a stable identifier across this system, if I may say. We don't expect that to change. I'm not sure if I'm missing something related to this specific use case about dataset DOIs, data site DOIs.
Okay, thanks, Panos. There are a couple more questions I wanted to get to during this time. It says in the documentation that this endpoint for data citations is in beta format. How long does the community have to give feedback, and when will this be anticipated to be operational, meaning no longer in beta?
I think I can take that question. I think, Panos, you said you wouldn't be prepared to do that. So to be perfectly honest with you, it is we don't have an end date in mind. So we are collecting feedback to understand what is the interest of the community in this endpoint and what kind of use cases there are for it. So at the moment, it's out there. We would like to learn as much as we can within within this year or potentially even the next quarter. But we don't currently have a date for changing that going forward. This will really depend on the take up from the community. So if you do find it useful, please let us know, and that will put a bigger priority on us progressing it. Thank you.
Thanks, Cora. How are we for time? Do we have time for a few more, or do we need to move on to the other presentations?
You can grab one more.
Okay.
I can clarify one. I think someone is asking if this is a new endpoint and the information is not available in the existing Crossref API. That's true. This is a separate endpoint. The plan is for this to stay separate for now and in the future probably. It will live under the api.crossref domain, most probably, but it won't be part necessarily of the existing endpoints such as works, members, etc.
And then we had one more question, and I don't know if this is kind of too conceptual to get into right now, but someone was looking for expanding some examples of use cases for the data relationship API. That might be a broader topic than we're able to discuss at the moment, but if you had some quick examples, that might be helpful.
As far as I'm aware, by data relationships, are we talking about data citations, I can assume?
Yes, where did that go?
Quite possibly. If we're talking still about data citations, all I know is that there have been a few members that were interested in this type of data, in event data. And so definitely there will be these users still being interested in this type of data. Now, probably this is the moment where we actually, that's the kind of feedback we are looking for from the community. We are as well. I mean, looking for answers on what are your use cases, and we would like to support these use cases if possible. So internally, we don't have use cases of our own. We try to adapt to requests that we had in the past from the community, and we hope to get more feedback on them.
Great, thanks, Panos. I think, Rosa, we're on to our final section of the day.
Yes, we are. So this is going to be Patrick, and you are going to be demoing the Metadata Manager. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes. Hi, I'm Patrick Bell. I'm a program technical lead here at Crossref. I'm based in Oxford in the UK. I'm just going to share my screen. So hopefully you can see my slides. Yes, so today I'd like to talk to you about updates on our Metadata Manager interface. So we retired our legacy Metadata Manager interface towards the end of 2025 and replaced it with a more modern and more flexible help tool for record registration. This new Metadata Manager has been in use for a few years now by many members who use it to register both journal article and grant records. As we're continuing to develop this tool, we've got some updates that we'd like to share with you today and show you what's new. So at our previous Crossref annual 2025 event, we demoed how you could edit a record in Metadata Manager by selecting it from a list of your recently submitted records, loading in the latest metadata and going through the submission form process before submitting any updates that you had. Since then, we've had a popular request to add a search field where you can handily enter a DOI of any supported record to which you have access and enter its metadata directly that way. So that's been added and has been live for a little while now. So also in the journal article form, we've added a new set of fields that lets you register relationship to metadata. Now, relationships are obviously a key element to building the research nexus vision that you would have heard about in many of the previous presentations. It's quite a simple process, as you can see here. You simply select the type of relationship that you'd like to register from a preset list and enter the DOI of the related work. So what's also coming soon, we're supporting new work types. Right now, as you will be aware if you use the tool, Metadata Manager only supports registration of journal articles and grant records, but we're working actively on supporting new work types, including books and chapters, conference proceedings and conference papers, as was requested earlier, reports and dissertations, along with post-publication updates. So this is just to give you an idea of what the books and the chapters form in the new Metadata Manager will look like. There should be no surprises here for anyone who's used Metadata Manager before to submit journal article content. You can see at the top, there are multiple pages. First of all, we have a page for book level metadata, such as the type of the book, the title and the subtitle, the contributors, and so on. After that, there's a page where you can optionally enter chapter metadata and register any chapter records that you have. And finally, there's an optional book series metadata page. And finally, as with journal articles, you get the chance to review everything you've entered for accuracy. And finally, you can confirm your submission. So also coming soon, conference papers and conference proceedings. So you can enter data about the event and the proceeding itself, as well as adding individual conference papers and optionally conference series information as well. Now, this was the one that was requested in an earlier question. So the report content type, we're also working on supporting that, as well as entering information about an individual report. You also have the option of registering series metadata for reports as well. And another coming soon content type is dissertations. These are even more straightforward and will be just one page in the form for entering all of your dissertation metadata. And finally, you'll be able to register post-publication updates, such as retractions, for journal content within a dedicated form within the new Metadata Manager. Currently, it's quite difficult to register this kind of update if you're not comfortable working with our XML directly, because you need quite a detailed knowledge of the crossmark portion of our input schema. We'll be making it a lot simpler to do with this new form, and hopefully that will help people to do that process. So having looked at a couple of the new content types available, we've got a few minutes, so it might be nice to do a quick demo of the tool in action. So I'm hoping you can now see my Metadata Manager registration interface. I'll show you the list of new content types. Again, you can see all the new content types we support are available here. So I'm going to choose a post-publication update. So the type of update, again, this is a preset list that you can pick from. In this case, I'm going to choose a retraction. Then we can add a title to the update notice. In this case, I'm going to start with retraction following COPE recommended best practice. And I'll call this title of the original article. Then we'll add a DOI of the update notice. It's best practice that every update should have a DOI of its own, and I shall call this just retraction. And then a landing page for that update notice. We use this excellent publishing platform. And then we also add the DOI of the article that's being updated with this post-publication update. So I'll just call this original article. It's also possible to add contributors to the update notice. Some people like to add the authors or the people involved in the creation of the update. It's an optional metadata, so I will not add that in this case. We'll add a publication date though. Let's say it's going to go live tomorrow. And once we've added the information about the retraction type and the article that we're retracting, we need to say which journal that retraction is being published in. It is possible to enter an ISSN directly and also the title, or we can use this handy drop down of the previous journals that you've registered your content in. So I would just choose a test journal and it pre-fills the ISSNs and also the title. It's also important to add the DOI of the crossmark update policy. So we'll add this in here. And if we continue, we see the familiar review metadata step where you can check all of the metadata. And this is precisely what the system will submit to our XML endpoint when you press the submit button. So we'll go ahead and make that submission now. So we can see the record is successfully submitted. You get a submission ID. You can also go to check the DOI itself, and you can also use the link to go direct to the admin tool, and that will show you your submission details for that specific submission. And if you want to start a new one, we have a button to return you to the Metadata Manager start interface, and you can register another record from there. Jump back into my slides. So thank you very much for your attention, watching and listening to our demo today. To give an idea of kind of timescales, these forms are going to be released over the next few months. We have also on our community forum a very long-standing thread about this tool. You're welcome to add feedback there, and of course start a new thread if you have a specific question or concern. And a last thing from the world of content registration that we want to draw your attention to is if you're a user of the DSpace repository software, in the next version of DSpace, there's going to be a Crossref integration added, and that means that you'll be able to register Crossref metadata and DOIs in an automatic way for things like dissertations that you might happen to host in your institutional DSpace repository. And that is the conclusion of our update on Metadata Manager.
Thanks, Patrick. I'll take on this next section on an update on the Service Providers Program. Hello, everyone. My name is Madhura Amdekar. I am a Community Engagement Manager, and I'm very happy to be here today to talk more about our plans to launch a new version of the Crossref Service Providers Program in 2026. Next slide, please. So Crossref works with the scholarly community to develop metadata registration services in response to the evolving needs of the community. As you've heard in previous presentations, rich metadata is really important for greater discoverability, transparency, and for preserving the integrity of the scholarly record. And we see service providers as key partners and facilitators of best practices in this area. So Crossref service providers historically included organizations such as hosting platforms, manuscript submission systems, XML or metadata providers, and general publisher service organizations that were selected by Crossref members to create, register, or display metadata on their behalf. So until 2022, we ran the first version of a dedicated service providers program, but we realized that the program needed improvement and it was paused in 2022 in order to review. We are now planning to launch a new version of the service providers program this year, where we propose a closer collaboration between us and service providers so that it can benefit Crossref members as well as the wider community. At the time of launch, the program will focus on organizations that enable content registration for Crossref members. And we are also proposing 2 tiers for the service providers under this program, and I'm going to talk more about it later. Next slide. So this slide here shows the key goals of this new program. As I mentioned before, the first and foremost aim is to enable the registration of high quality, rich metadata that will benefit Crossref members, service providers, Crossref, as well as the wider community. We are also hoping that this collaboration between Crossref and service providers will enable smoother implementation of Crossref services for our members. Service providers would be able to support the implementation of Crossref schema versions so that this can be adopted by Crossref members. And service providers to share up-to-date information about the services that they are able to integrate and provide to their clients. There will be no fee associated with this new service providers program. So as part of this program, service providers will commit to the following: staying up to date with Crossref services and policies, being able to give us feedback on our services, give Crossref information about their client service offerings and documenting metadata workflows, as well as promoting metadata best practices per our participation reports. They should also commit to make reasonable efforts to accommodate changes to the Crossref schema and other services. Also ensuring that clients' DOIs continue to resolve to relevant content and landing pages. So as I mentioned before, there will be 2 tiers under this program. So to fall into the basic tier of the program, the service provider should be able to enable members to register content and deposit the required metadata. Under the basic tier, the organization should also have the ability to support and display multiple client prefixes. They should be able to support continuous resolution of clients' DOIs through platform migrations, as well as keep direct communication channels open with Crossref and share any feedback on our tools and integrations. There will be also a second advanced tier. So organizations to meet the requirements of the advanced tier, they should be able to support everything in the basic tier. And in addition, facilitate the deposit and update of required, recommended, and optional metadata elements that appear in participation reports. These service providers should also be able to support the latest schema versions, by which I mean the schema 5 versions. So at the time of the launch, schema version 5.3.1 and 5.4.0 will be the threshold for advanced. So at the moment, we are working on an application form which service providers can use to apply to be a part of the program. And once the form is ready, it will be made available on our website. As I said, the focus at this initial stage would be on entities that enable content registration. So after organizations apply, their forms will be reviewed, and we will then schedule accreditation calls with the applicants and determine the tier of the service provider in question. Once these organizations are accredited and set up, we'll also make available on our website a list of service providers that fall under the basic or the advanced tier. The accredited service providers will be asked to renew their accreditation annually by submission of a reaccreditation form. This might contain new requirements, for example, support for a new schema version that may have released. So currently we are at the consultation stage of this program and aiming to launch the program later this year. So that's all that I had to share about this program. Now is the time to hear from you. As we are working to launch this program, we would really like to hear from you. Which service providers in this space would you like to see as part of this program? So the chat box is open. Please feel free to share your suggestions in the chat. I would like to give all of you a couple of moments to share your suggestions and look forward to seeing your suggestions here on which organizations in this space you'd want to see as part of the program so that we can invite them. Again, it would be really nice to have your suggestions in the chat about which service providers you'd want us to see included in this program. I'm seeing some suggestions and comments coming in the chat. So keep your suggestions coming in, and thank you for your attention for this section, and we can move on to the Q&A section.
Thanks, Madhura. So there's a couple of questions related to Metadata Manager that I will start with. Can I add or update keywords in Metadata Manager?
I have to admit, I'm not sure what a keyword means in that context. So that might be one either for someone else or for a question for our support. But I very much like to know what that is. Shane is saying we don't support keywords yet.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay.
Sorry, but Patricia, did you want to respond to this? I think you currently have a consultation going about the keywords as well, which is a good opportunity to mention.
Yes, I was. Yeah, we have a poll out, and I will drop the link in the chat in a second, asking our members specifically what vocabularies they use for subjects, and if they collect keywords, and if they would like to send them to Crossref. We've had a lot of interest in collecting this metadata, but there's a bazillion million vocabularies. I think that's the official number, and we have to figure out how best to handle a potentially messy situation. So we do have a survey out, and I will put that in the chat.
Thank you, Patricia. We have a question about retractions. Trying to, let's see, on the question, in the case of a retraction, is it mandatory to generate a new DOI or just update the event and continue with the same DOI? Do we have a recommendation on best practice for that?
Patricia, is that one you might be able to take?
I'm really sorry. I was looking at. I was adding the Picking Keywords survey to the chat, and I missed the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It was what if in the case of a retraction, would you use the same, is it mandatory to generate a new DOI, or can you update that event and continue with the same DOI?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. You should use a different DOI if there's something substantial in the update that changes the meaning of the work. But if it's a minor update and you can record that in the crossmark metadata without generating a new DOI.
Okay.
You basically link the DOI to itself, and I believe the crossmark pop-up box knows what to do with that.
Okay. Great, thanks, Patricia. We have a question from someone. They said they aren't tech savvy and don't have a dedicated developer team, but they want to use the they're not able to use the APIs to track citation counts. It's a big challenge. So are there any plans for us to build a simple user-friendly dashboard or a tool where we can just see the citation numbers without needing any specific coding skills?
I think it would partly mean the question would be what citations people are trying to track here. You can track participation and metadata quality through our participation reports, but I don't think we have at the moment a specific citation kind of counting dashboard. But always interested in people's use cases, so do write in with more details if you have them.
Yeah, you can contact our tech support at support@crossref.org with any feedback or questions specifically about this. And that's all the questions that are in the Q&A. Are there other questions that folks might have for us today?
All right, we are nearly at time, but then we do have someone with a raised hand. We could address that, and then we can wrap up.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me? I don't know my name. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, so well, I feel like the baby of the group because right now I think we're the latest members of the Crossref. My name is Professor Mina, and I am a professor at the River State University who has just received a Crossref partnership. I just feel like jumping on everybody right now. We feel so excited. The school has been celebrating so much about this, achievement, I'll call it. They all feel so excited to be a part of. Crossref is so important to the whole school. Imagine over 40,000 students and over thousands of faculty members excited. Everybody's like Crossref. So I think this is just an opportunity for me to record it here to say thank you, Crossref, for welcoming us to the family. And obviously, we follow through with what happened today, but I really need to learn a lot about what is going on and to see how we can enhance. Then my question will be, with the opportunity we have, can we get as many other journals? And I heard about books, but I'm not sure what that means. If we also have books that are going to get Crossref DOIs, I really don't know. I will learn all that with time, but for now, this is officially telling the whole Crossref team that we are very happy. River State University is happy. Amina, my name, I'm happy as well. And we look forward to learning so much and taking advantage of this very massive opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments, Mina. We welcome you to the Crossref community.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Mina. Very kind words there. So that was great. What a great way to end our session today. So that should do it for us today. If you wish to continue the conversation with us, you can find us on LinkedIn, Mastodon, and Blue Sky. But most of all, please join us on our community forum. You can get in touch with us at our feedback@crossref.org email. And perhaps you consider us subscribing to our newsletter, and you can find the subscription link at the footer of any page on our website. I want to say thank you to all the presenters and colleagues who are here helping with Q&A and chat. And we'll follow up in the next couple of days with a recording and deck and any unanswered questions that we have here. But thank you all for joining us today. Be well and bye for now.